Hello there and welcome to Hydroponics Daily, the go-to podcast for everything soilless cultivation. I am your host, Dr. Russell Sharp, the founder of Utrema Limited, and this is the last episode of 2025. I have managed to complete a podcast every single day of 2025. Most of the time I've not batch recorded them. I am batch recording this one because I am currently on holiday in Turkey, and last time I went to Turkey, I wasn't the Wikipedia didn't even work. The Wikipedia was banned. Heaven forbid people should have access to Wikipedia. So I didn't know if any of the podcast software websites I use would actually be working when I went on holiday. So I've had to batch record them all for this. But normally I did one every single day, which was hard sometimes. Sometimes I'd get home about 11 o'clock and quickly rush one out. Other times I'd have plenty of time to research them. So thank you very much if you've listened to any of the podcasts. And if you've listened to all 365, you deserve a medal and at least a pint of wine, as the football manager Sam Allardyce would drink. Thank you very much for your continued support. Today I wanted to cover a topic often discussed in hydroponics, and especially in the legal cannabis sector. If, it's natural. When people say, "Oh, something's natural," or "it's extracted from plants, therefore it's fine," and people could get confused between organic, natural, and safe. If it comes from a plant, it must be safe, and that's obviously not true. And any drug, whether it's cannabis or not, whether it's hemp, any drug that works has side effects. If it doesn't have side effects, then it doesn't work. That is the truth. And because, you want to have a biological effect on a human, then it's going to have negative side effects in some people. So there are lots of plants that are highly poisonous, and even though they're natural, it would be stupid. It would be foolhardy. It would be dangerous. It would be illegal to put into food or even put onto a crop. So you couldn't make a biopesticide, an organic biopesticide out of many crops. You can't spray, for example, tobacco extract on plants or burn tobacco in a greenhouse to kill pests because it's not classed as organic, because it's not safe. You couldn't make a biopesticide out of any of the ingredients, any of the plants I'm going to talk about today, because they would be too toxic to the humans that would consume the crop. I'm going to list the 10 most toxic plants that are grown in a garden or found in a garden. And these are ridiculously poisonous. They are natural and they are grown. And you need to be careful if you come across them. They're mostly ornamental plants, as you would imagine. None of them are food plants apart from one. And I'll explain that one. So I've asked ChatGPT to rank them. And obviously, as it always says at the bottom in grey letters, very small, ChatGPT can make mistakes. Check important info. And as I am a trained plant scientist, I know that the information is correct. So number 10 is hemlock, specifically poison hemlock, Conium maculatum. It's very poisonous. It's widely naturalized as well and invasive, and can show up as a garden edge weed. So poison hemlock is very common throughout, I think, Europe. Let's have a look at it. It looks a bit like it's in the carrot family, and so it can get confused with many of those type of plants. Giant hogweed is another plant in that family, which is extremely poisonous. And the danger of giant hogweed is kids can pick it in the summer and use it as like pea shooters or as pretend telescopes, pirate telescopes, and it reacts with UV light and it causes these massive blisters that people believe can turn carcinogenic as well. And if you get it in your windpipe and if you suck on it and try to use it as a pea shooter, it can block your windpipe and you can suffocate to death. And if you get it on your eye, you go blind. So they're two really poisonous plants. Deadly nightshade, as the name implies, Atropa belladonna, highly toxic berries and foliage, occasionally grown as a curiosity. I think it can be found as a weed as well. Belladonna, because it used to be used by the Greeks, I believe, to put in the eyes of women to make them dilate so that they would look like they were romantically interested in people they were looking at, but definitely not recommended for that. Very common. Number 8, a very common plant. I've grown it in in a research institute, East Malling down in Kent. Brugmansia, angel trumpet. It contains alkaloids, just like deadly nightshade. It's in the tomato family, in the nightshade family. They all contain alkaloids. Never eat the green tissue in a tomato because they contain poisonous alkaloids. But the angel trumpet, the Brugmansia, all the species in there, they're popular ornamentals. Every single part of the plant is poisonous, including the roots. Okay, not just the flowers. They're beautiful flowers, but extremely poisonous, and do not grow that around kids. Number 7 is probably should be higher up on the list, and that's monkshood or wolfsbane. Aconitum napellus, highly toxic, beautiful flowers, and called monkshood because of the shape of the flower. Looks like a monk's hood. I remember a story once of some burglars stole the plants from a nursery, and they broke into a shed, stole the plants inside the shed that was locked up, or the greenhouse that was locked, because they thought they must be the most valuable ones. There was all security around them, not realizing that there was security because they were so poisonous, and they stole them, and then they had to have a release on the BBC local news saying, if you stole these plants, you better return them because they are extremely poisonous. So there you go. Number 6 is yew, the yew tree, Taxus baccata, and other species. They contain the taxine alkaloids. They're common as a hedge tree, very dangerous if eaten. And the taxol chemical is in them, and that's used as a chemotherapy drug. And we all know that chemotherapy drugs have side effects, and they are toxic to humans in high doses. And so yew trees, for example. Yellow oleander. Oleander, extremely poisonous seeds, cultivated in warmer regions, especially parts of Australia, California. I once heard of a man whose wife was being very kind to him and offering him a cup of tea while he was in the garden. And she made him tea, but she didn't stir the milk. Oh. And so he just broke off a twig from a shrub next to him, stirred his tree, and promptly died because there was enough toxin released from the oleander stem to kill him. So there you go. So oleander, pink oleander or yellow oleander, they're both 5 and 6. Nerium oleander, highly toxic, carcinogenic glycosides. So grown as a pot plant in the UK. So there you go. Number 3 is a food crop. It's castor bean or castor oil plant. And you extract the oil from the bean and it doesn't contain any of this, the ricin, the toxin that is often cited as a potential chemical weapon, and terrorists have tried to use it as a chemical weapon and release it, luckily to no degree of success. But castor bean plant is used in ornamental settings throughout the UK as a centre piece for bedding displays. By many local councils use it in their bedding displays, and luckily, it doesn't produce enough ricin when grown in the UK, but is a potentially very, very toxic natural plant, natural ingredient. So ricin. Then what's on my number 2 is another type of hemlock. Hemlock water dropwort, or dead man's fingers. Among the UK's most poisonous plants, the roots are especially dangerous. It grows along waterways, and this is a plant that is fitting for any horror movie, because you don't just die, you die with a smile on your face, because it contracts the muscles in your face and makes you smile as you are being poisoned to death. Sounds horrific. Described as a sardonic grin by people who have seen people who are dead. There are no pictures online of people who have died by this because it would be a GDPR disaster, but there might be one. I think there's a picture of one person on Wikipedia who has died from eating it. The rictus grin. Ooh, blimey. Doesn't look good. Yeah. So yeah, poor guy. He's there. And then number 2 is water hemlock. You'll find that a lot of these are in the same plant families, the nightshade family and the carrot family. Water hemlock, number 1, most toxic plant grown in a garden or found in a garden. You don't smile when you have this one. You get lethal convulsions, so you convulse to death whilst being poisoned. So sounds absolutely horrific. water hemlock described as the most toxic indigenous plant in North America, and often a wet area weed. So completely natural, but you will convulse to death if you eat it. Not an ornamental, but probably the most poisonous ornamental one would be castor oil plant or castor bean, followed by oleander, and then I'd probably say monkshood. Monkshood probably number 2 for me, and then deadly nightshade and Brugmansia, the plants from the tomato family and the pepper family, potato family. All of those potatoes, if you eat the green part of potato, it's poisonous. If you eat the green leaves of potato, it's poisonous. If you eat the green part of a tomato, it's poisonous, but not green tomatoes, the fruit themselves, when they're ripe. Other poisonous plants that of note, rhubarb. Obviously, in the UK, we eat a lot of rhubarb, and we grow a lot of rhubarb, even out of the soil hydroponically. And if you eat the leaves of them, you get diarrhea. And if you eat wild rhubarb or a lot of rhubarb roots, leaves, you can actually diarrhea yourself to death. And that is a thing. And that's another horrible way to go. So you could diarrhea yourself to death. You could convulse yourself to death with water hemlock, or you could smile yourself to death with dead man's fingers or water dropwort if you go along the canals of the UK and the rivers of the UK. So some horrific plants there that you probably don't want to be growing hydroponically. Well, maybe you do. Maybe there are some interesting plants there you can have for your poison garden. There are a number of poison gardens around the world. And of the ones that I think you could probably grow hydroponically, angel's trumpet, Brugmansia, that's an ornamental plant that you can sell. Monkshood, you can sell that as probably to specialist growers, enthusiasts. But Brugmansias, people buy that. The general public will buy that one. And everything else on the list, castor bean, castor oil plants, very common bedding plants, could be grown hydroponically. Obviously, you need to be careful not to. The castor bean plant, the ricin, to consume it, you would have to aerosolize it and get it into your lungs, which is very, very difficult. If you're growing a small plant, you'd have to get the beans and do that. So don't worry about that. The main concern is, I always say, is Brugmansia, because it's widely grown. It looks so beautiful that the general public would buy it, and it's any part of the plant is poisonous, so you don't need to worry about that. Other plants like foxgloves, they contain digitalin, which is a drug and is used for a lot of heart medicine to slow the heart down. And obviously, if you eat wild foxgloves, then your heart will slow down to the point where you die. And foxgloves are very poisonous, and they are in my garden for next year. I'm growing 200 foxglove plants for a display of biennials with spikes. I've got a garden just for plants with floral spikes. I think that's going to look amazing. It looks like a potato field at the moment, but I'm going to put a big spherical fountain in. So in 2026, it's going to look amazing. And it's New Year's Eve today, apparently. I batch recorded these, but it is New Year's Eve. So Happy New Year, everybody. I hope you have a fantastic 2026. I'll see you on the other side with more podcasts. Not every day like this year, but hopefully all killer, no filler. Thank you very much for listening. Leave us an Apple Podcast review if you're bored on New Year's Eve. Make sure you click follow so you don't miss an episode. And if you're really bored, check out utrema.co.uk for amazing, unique fertilizers, biostimulants, and biopesticides you won't find anywhere else. We don't white label for anyone else, and all our technology is completely unique. We don't copy anyone else, and we have amazing plant scientists and biochemists that manufacture the products. Okay, thank you very much for listening, and I'll see you again next year.